Itch it up, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you gonna dig this.
Happy Saturday, everyone. This is Sucker Punch, our number one. New start time today. Joe Habeeb, being the adopted son of jolly old England, couldn't miss Chelsea versus Everton this morning. Chelsea defeated Everton 1-0. There you go. So we're here, our number one. Little bit delayed today, but we're going to get into it like we always do. This is Sucker Punch, the working man's no frills, no filter boxing show. Here to knock out all of the sucker narratives. And look, it's been a long time coming, Joe. This is a very anticipated day. It's a very anticipated fight. Dare I say it's bigger than it was originally way back October of 2022, I believe, was when this fight was first scheduled. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. I'm thinking, October 8, 2022, this fight was originally scheduled. Chris Eubank Jr., son of a legend, son of English Chris Eubank Sr., taking on the son of the Destroyer Benn, Nigel Benn. Two greats in their own era, two greats at the super middleweight division. This fight is taking place between a middleweight in Eubank Jr. and a welterweight in Conor Benn. We're going to get into more of the weightiness of the issue. We'll talk about it during hour number one. Hour number two, we're going to get into the whole fines and some of the other things going on. But this is now a Fatal Fury Ring Magazine event, Joe. And it's, dare I say, it's a bigger fight than it would have been nearly 3 years ago. Go for it.
Well, all it did was become bigger because the build-up and the build-up and the build-up, there was a lot of animosity that kept growing and growing. There was a lot of back and forth. It's amazing now that Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn are, I'm not going to say best buddies, but they respect each other. They're cordial. They can be in the same room with each other and they can get a laugh. So I find that a little bit fascinating, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But Chris Eubank Jr. is very upset with Conor Benn. A lot of people are upset with Conor Benn. I have my own position on the whole drug test thing, and I'm in the minority when it comes to the drug test thing. And sometimes when you're in the minority, what I always tell people is, if you're in a 90-10 issue, when you're in the 10%, you can hold your ground, but you're never going to change the 90% of those people's minds, right? So you just got to, play your position when you're in the 10%, and I'm definitely in the 10% when it comes to the drug testing thing. But I digress. But yeah, this thing, I went out to eat with my buddy, and he's a casual fan, but he's gotten a little bit more interested in boxing because of me. But he would never, like when this fight was first announced back in 2022, he had no idea about these two fighters. And he even told me yesterday he went back and on YouTube and watched the father's fight because of all of the promotion this thing is getting on YouTube, on TikTok. So this fight, to some degree, has crossed over, I would dare say, mainstream. Now, is it going to be Canelo Crawford over in the United States? Absolutely not. But this fight is definitely much bigger, much bigger.
Joe,
Not only
I
in the
want you to
UK,
continue this.
not
Go
only in
for
the
it.
UK, I'll just make it
Yeah.
brief. Not only in the UK, but also it's getting some traction in the US. Go ahead now.
Yeah, look, I just want to take people back to the scenes nearly 3 years ago. I know you remember this, Joe. We did a bunch of videos on it on your channel and on my channel. This was the scene back in October 2023. This is courtesy of Seconds Out. Here we go.
Sorry for the delay. I was very tempted to slip out the back door for a beer, but wanted to come and see you guys, and thanks for waiting around. Been a very difficult day, 24 hours, 48 hours. We were looking forward to an event that has really captured the imagination of the British public, and a fight that had so much history, myself and Calla and Wasserman Boxing so excited for, but obviously we wanted to come here today and formally announce that Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn has been officially postponed. I want to make it clear that Conor Benn is not suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control, and we do feel that he hasn't been given due process like many others in this situation before him. I also want to clear up so many different reports from journalists and outlets that we've seen today about us being in the High Court this afternoon, us considering other commissions. This is just not true. We took our time with Wasserman Boxing and we made a decision that we felt was in the best interests of the parties involved. This is a sport that is very, very dear to us, a sport that we've been around our entire life. And whilst we were desperate for this fight to take place, for the fans, for the undercard fighters, we also made a decision that we felt we had to at this time, especially considering the interest of the sport and the British public as well. Calla, a few words from you. Obviously been with Chris Eubank Jr. this afternoon. Tough times for
Calla really doesn't look too happy here, does he, Joe?
him as well, and a tough process to be involved with.
Good afternoon. So I've spent there, obviously just come from Chris. He's hugely disappointed. He was ready. He was on weight. And he was very much looking forward to this weekend. Feelings also go out to each and every single one of the undercard fighters. Remember, it's not just an event, it's a camp for each and every single one of them that they've gone through. This matter was taken out of our hands. The handling of it, we feel, was totally inappropriate, given the rules, and we now look at the plans of rescheduling it.
To leave it there. Yes, they did reschedule it. They actually ended up walking out of that press conference without taking any questions.
Yeah.
A few things that I wanted to review from that I think are worthwhile to note. Number one, the issue of Chris Eubank Jr. making the contracted weight, right? Number two, the fact that the postponement of this fight, the cancellation of the first fight, let's just call it a cancellation. I mean, do you really postpone things by nearly 3 years? The fight was canceled. Number three, Sauerland there, who's, by the way, no longer Chris Eubank Jr.'s promoter, referenced the undercard and the undercard fighters and the fact that they had fight camps. Interestingly, there's been a lot of bad blood because of the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. had nothing to do with the cancellation of that first fight. So there's reasons for him to have bad blood, right? He ended up paying a lot of the expenses of those undercard fighters that we just heard about in that initial video there, Joe. So I'm seeing a lot of reasons for bad blood on the Eubank side. I'm seeing a lot of reason for bad blood on the side of the undercard fighters who weren't paid and who had to go into debt, I guess, over their fight camp expenses. I'm not quite sure why we've seen a Conor Benn that's been so vitriolic and hateful, spiteful towards Chris Eubank Jr. over the last nearly, like I said, 3 years. Joe, if you could chime in on the events of that day that have led up to what we're going to see later on tonight in England at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Go for it.
Well, Conor Benn, it's just like the Canelo situation when Triple G kept digging at Canelo for the clenbuterol, right? When he tested positive for clenbuterol. I know Caleb Plant did the same thing. You know, I'm going to just give you my opinion. I honestly think, and this is just my opinion, these fighters know, like in Canelo's situation, I think most people know that that was contamination. Like Canelo didn't take that knowingly, right? But it's something you can use against the fighter to get under his skin, get in his head, because the fans don't look at it that way. Like fans are just black and white when it comes to this. And once again, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole because I'm under 10%. But I believe these fighters, more of them understand that, the situations, right? And they know what's going on. And I don't really think per se, and this is just my opinion, that Chris Eubank Jr. is so mad at the fact that Conor Benn tested positive, thinking that he was trying to cheat and get an edge on him. I think he was so angry because of the event, right? Having to work so hard, and because that way I believe was a catch weight, right? At that first time around. So I think more so it was about that he screwed up the event, and he made me boil down to this weight, and it was all for nothing, right? So I think that most of that was frustration. But again, just like many of the fighters do, they use that for fuel. They use that to motivate them, and they also use it to get under their opponent's skin. It's a weapon. It's a psychological weapon. So that's what I think. He's resentful towards putting all that work in, all the money that was on the line for that fight that he didn't get paid, all the hard work, and some argue, and it's just something to think about. When he carried over and fought Liam Smith, having to do another camp shortly after that, after killing himself. You know what I'm saying? So after draining yourself for that long of a period of time, because that was probably a different camp, because he never had to make 157, or at least one for a long time that I know of. Some people say he fought at 154. I'll have to go back and look at that early in his career. But at that stage, he was barely making 160 because he was coming down from 168, which I think was a mistake. I agree with his father there. But nevertheless, having to come down to 150, 157, draining himself, having a very strenuous camp, and then that being canceled, and then going into the Liam Smith fight after already being drained like that. So it was just a lot of craziness that was going on with his body, right? And I think he resents Conor Benn for that. And you could argue that had something to do with the performance in the first Liam Smith fight. Who knows? But I think that he uses this as a weapon to get under Conor Benn's skin, uses it as a way to motivate himself, and obviously there's going to be resentment because of what happened in the first fight. And there was already bad blood boiling up in the first fight because it's the rivalry, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to be joined shortly by Little Penny, but before we get in to talking with Little Penny, there are a couple things I want to really quickly review. And the first one is what each of these fighters has done since October 8th, 2022. Like I said, nearly 3 years ago. Here we've got Conor Benn up on the screen, 23-0, 14 KOs, the destroyer out of Ilford, Essex. I'm not going to try to pronounce the rest of that. That's just outside London. I believe he also grew up in Spain and Australia. What has he done? Well, he fought Rodolfo Orozco on September 23rd, 2023, nearly a year after the first scheduled bout. Then he came back again against Peter Dobson, that was on the 3rd of February of last year. So he fought once in 2023. He fought once in 2024. And this is his first fight in 2025. Now, there are the Conor Benn detractors who are going to immediately point out that he went from knocking out Chris Algieri, knocking out Chris Van Heerden, and then going to unanimous decision against what many people are considered to be lesser competition than those two fighters in Orozco and Dobson, right? You go over to Chris Eubank Jr. What has he done since October of 2022? Well, like you mentioned, Joe, he took on Liam Smith, got technically knocked out. That was January of 2023, came back later on in 2023 with Bomac and TKO'd Liam Smith in 10 rounds. That was September of 2023. Then came back late last year against Camille Zeremeta, who he TKO'd in the 7th, and now he's back for the rescheduled fight against Conor Benn. Thoughts on that? Strength of schedule, Joe, between the postponement and the first scheduled fight and this fight. Go for it.
Liam Smith, I don't think gets the credit he deserves. I always thought he was a solid guy. Obviously, the former world champion, but in the divisions he's fought, I always thought he was a legitimate top 5 or 6 guy, regardless, right? And I think Liam Smith is better than anyone Conor Benn's ever fought. Now, people want to talk about Chris Algieri, and I like Chris Algieri. I have a lot of respect for Chris Algieri, but I think Liam Smith's a better fighter. I just think he's a real solid pro, Liam Smith. He's very all around technically sound, and I think I would also say he's a harder puncher than Conor Benn. And I know a lot of people don't like to do the combat math thing, but I just don't see Conor Benn really having one punch knockout power, particularly at 154. And definitely, I have a hard time seeing it at 160. And then I hear guys like, no disrespect, Tony Bellew trying to tell me that Conor Benn has better boxing skills than Chris Eubank Jr. And even though Chris Eubank Jr. is dynamic, yeah, even though Chris Eubank Jr. is a dynamic guy, and he's not the prototypical Floyd Mayweather or Pernell Whitaker. I've seen him get behind the jab and engage his range pretty well. I think he's more of a mid-range guy per se, but he can get behind the jab and box at distance. I thought he did that in the second Liam Smith fight.
I thought he boxed masterfully in the second Smith fight, and he looked pretty well against Camille Zeremeta as well, if truth be told. Now, before we bring on Lil Penny, lastly, I have to double down on everything you said and also provide a little bit of evidence to back it up in terms of who punches harder, Smith or Benn. I mean, we saw Benn go to distance against Orozco at 154. We saw him go to distance against Pete Dobson at 154. Going into that first fight with Chris Eubank Jr., Smith was coming off of 3 successive knockout wins against Anthony Fowler, Jesse Vargas, and Hassan Maquinho. Now, people may poo-poo Hassan Maquinho, but I would put Jesse Vargas and Anthony Fowler ahead of Orozco and Pete Dobson. People can disagree with me on that, but that's my personal opinion and perspective on it. Let's bring in Lil Penny. Lil Penny, talk to me about this fight. What are your thoughts? Go for it. And happy Saturday from down under.
Yes, just finished watching Pope Francis's funeral online.
Yes. R.I.P. to the Pope Francis.
That's right. Interesting that they're now rehydrated to, I think, Conor Benn's at 164.5. Oh, this is the last weigh-in, sorry. And Eubank made weight, I think, is at 169. I don't think,
169 and a half, yeah.
yeah, because I hope this is not like a Pacquiao De La Hoya type
I don't think it
scenario
is.
for
I don't think it
Eubank
is.
Jr. because they still have a few hours left to eat and stuff, and Ben he might, which is starting in 2 hours' time, he might overweigh Eubank because usually when someone is so big and they drain their weight so much, they can't eat anymore. Even if they eat, they'll start chucking up because their body is not used to eating food for that long. Um, I'm still going for Eubanks though, because I think for me, for Ben, he's gonna find out that 164 weighing at 164 pounds, even more, he's gonna be a lot slower, mate. Those punches, especially maybe right around the third or fourth round, fifth round, they're not going to be as fast as he thinks. He's going to be carrying like barbells, like in the championship rounds. I still think Eubank's going to win by decision. So that's my prediction.
There you go. Base asked for it. Base is gonna get the facts straight from me. So from my mic to your computer or laptop or I guess cell phone screen, whatever you're watching it on. I'm gonna respond to this right now. Salute to you, by the way, Base. Why do you never add for context that Orozco and Dobson have never been knocked out before, and that Orozco also failed a test after the fight? Not to mention Conor fighting in bigger gloves than normal. Uh, okay. Well, guess who else hadn't been knocked out? Fowler hadn't been knocked out, and neither had Jesse Vargas before they fought Liam Smith. So there's your context. Joe, anything you'd like to add to that? You don't have to if you don't want to. Go for it.
Well, I have this saying, right? When people say, "Oh, this guy never fought anybody." Well, no one ever fights anybody till they fight somebody, and no one ever gets knocked out till they get knocked out. We heard that no one's ever knocked out Antonio Margarito. No one's ever knocked out Shane Mosley. No one's ever knocked out Paul Williams. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is all opinion. Liam Smith would knock out Pete Dobson, in my opinion. I think Liam Smith would knock out Orozco, in my opinion. I think he would break him down. So these guys that have never been knocked out, I would argue, and once again, it's opinion. We can have discussions. We can disagree if we want. No one's technically right or wrong here. This is an opinion based show. Usually, my opinion is the best opinion out there, but that's another opinion on top of an opinion. But I think that for Roscoe and Dobson, and shout out to BT Sport, man, Brandon Taylor, because he told me about Dobson. I didn't because he's a Florida guy, and
But Dobson's actually from the Bronx, where I live
yeah, but
originally.
I think
he moved down to Florida to train. Yeah.
Thank you, Maestro.
Yeah.
That's correct. But yeah, he told me that Dobson was a good fighter. So base, I'll give you Dobson. Dobson's a solid guy, but I still think Smith would probably stop him.
But also, again, Jesse Vargas was never knocked out, and neither was Fowler before they faced Smith. So we could play never been knocked out until the cows come home here.
Until they get knocked out. I mean, that's all I'm trying to say. But I'll be honest with you. Most people thought Conor Benn was going to knock out Pete Dobson, and
I definitely did.
And when it didn't happen, I mean, all you got to do is check the odds. Now, again, I mean, he won the fight, whatever. But he was a huge favorite, and most people thought he was going to stop him. Most people thought he was going to stop Orozco. Okay? Chris Eubank Jr. pretty much stops the people he's supposed to stop, right? Generally throughout the course of his career. So I just don't think that Conor Benn is going to be this monster puncher at 154 or at 160. And we saw him against Formella. He didn't look great in that fight. So I mean, he's a decent fighter. He's a good fighter, but I just think that these guys are telling me, oh, he has better boxing.
Question:
Let
Is
me
he a
just finish
top?
the point. Let me just finish the point.
Yeah.
He goes, he has like I'm just never gonna buy into this whole thing that he's a better boxer than Chris Eubank Jr. I'm sorry, Maestro. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, look, my issue with this, when you're looking at Conor Benn, is that I don't consider Conor Benn to be a top 5 welterweight.
Everyone's
I
telling me
don't think he's competitive at 154 pounds against the guys at 154 pounds. I don't think he's competitive against Jesse Vargas. I don't think he's competitive against definitely not against Crawford or any of the guys that have been top guys at 154. Name them. Madrimov, who I don't even know if he's in my top 5 at 154 anymore. He probably isn't. I could go down the list. So I'm supposed to believe that a guy who I'm not ranking among the best at 147, where he says that's his actual weight class, or at 154 is gonna now beat a guy who, I don't consider him to be the best middleweight in the division, but he's a competent middleweight fighter without
he's always
question.
a top 10. He's a legitimate top
It's
10
like
guy.
I'm just not seeing it. You wanted to make a point, go for it.
Yeah, real quick, and I'll let Penny jump back in.
Yeah.
Everyone loves to say this too. Oh, Chris always lost when he stepped up. Okay, go back to that Billy Joe Saunders fight. And again, this doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't matter. But it does matter in a bit if you really dig down deep. When he fought Billy Joe Saunders, he lost by the hair of a rat's ass. Like, that fight was one of the closest fights I've ever seen, right? When he lost to George Groves clearly won the fight. But that was like an 8-4, 7-5. Like, even when he's lost, he's always made a good account of himself. Like, outside of the Liam Smith fight,
I thought he was winning that fight, by the way, before he got knocked out.
Yeah, he was winning the fight against Liam Smith, I thought, even though it was a 4-round fight. But outside of the Liam Smith fight, he's never been beat soundly, in my opinion. And if Conor Benn fought that level of opposition, I think he would lose. And Conor Benn is 31 years old. He has no amateur background, basically. And
he's been inactive. I'm
not trying to dump on the guy. But I think he's severely overrated here. I just see it. I think he's severely overrated here.
Yeah, it's like my issue with the whole bad blood and the beef and I'm going to take your head clean off and all of this stuff that I don't believe is actually going to happen. Base is actually correcting that he's 28.
Let me see on the boxer, because I thought I could have sworn.
Which sounds about right.
Base, I apologize. You're correct. He is 28. I'm sorry.
But
I apologize for that. I thought he was 31.
He has been inactive. And I just don't blame Chris Eubank Jr. for the decisions of the BBBOC. That's not his fault. I mean, what they've decided to do. It's not Chris. Honestly, Chris Eubank Jr. for a while was pretty silent on the matter at hand. Maybe Conor Benn was expecting him to, I don't know, correct the record in his eyes and kind of quell a lot of the stuff that fans were saying, or, the biggest mouthpiece speaking out against Ben over the course of the last nearly 3 years hasn't been Chris Eubank Jr. Up until the fight was announced to be on again. It was actually Simon Jordan from TalkSport, if you ask me. It's not like Chris Eubank Jr. was the Pied Piper out there playing his flute and encouraging fans to follow him in hatred towards Conor Benn. If that happened, I didn't see it, but here we are. Here's some bad blood between Chris and Conor's promoter, Eddie Hearn. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen, and I'll ask you guys to chime in. This is courtesy of Marcos Villegas' Fight Hub TV. Salute to you, Marcos.
Okay. Hello? Am I allowed to speak, Chris? Good.
Frank, if Eddie's not speaking, do you think you're going to get a word in? Come on.
No, but I don't speak as long as he does. That's the one thing I'll give you. I'll be very quick.
We're going to have some parliamentary procedure today, and anything that Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, or Frank Smith have to say, is irrelevant and will not be heard.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate your kind introduction.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Look, I'm going to be very quick because I don't want to get cut off
You are
too
going to
many
be
times.
very quick.
I'm going to be very quick,
You're
Chris.
not going to
Don't worry.
say anything.
Chris, don't worry.
You
Well,
are
I'm
no different to
saying
any
something, aren't I? So, you know, it seems to be working
There's
so far.
There's
Thank
no
you very
little
much,
way
Chris.
you guys are going
Chris,
to
sorry, I
wiggle
can't hear you.
anything in.
This is the...
If I direct a question to you or to Eddie, then you can speak.
It's very honourable.
Outside of that, I don't want to hear a peep. And if
Thank you very
try and
much.
talk to me, or if you try and do your little speech.
To be fair, he's not even allowing Ben Shalom to speak either, to be honest.
Yeah, but
You
he
know-
let him speak. He let him speak at the beginning. Like I remember Tony Bell was being interviewed, right? And he goes, "Well, you know, it's not fair that he let Ben speak, but not the other side." And I'm like, Tony, obviously he's biased to his side. Why would he go against his own promoter?
There you go. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm going to shut it down because guess what? People aren't here to listen to you already speak. They want to hear what me and Conor have to say.
I don't
That's
disagree
not
with
gonna
that, but
change.
people want to hear
Doesn't matter how
your
much
promoter
time
speak,
you're going
but
to waste.
you allowed him to speak.
You're not going to out-talk me. You're not going to.
No, I wouldn't dare out-talk you. I know I can't out-talk you, Chris.
Exactly.
You're a very good
So I
talker.
don't know why you're on the stage, but you should probably get Eddie back in.
It was just to
He's
help.
got a better chance to say anything than you do. Trust me.
Oh, really?
Eddie's irrelevant, but you are
Super irrelevant.
Exactly.
I know. I'm so irrelevant. You called me a scumbag in a press conference. It was nice of you to bring up my name. Thank you very much.
did call you a
But anyway,
scumbag.
I'm going to be very quick.
I know you're going to
enough
be
to
quick.
work
I
with
told
Conor
you
Benn
already.
for many, many years. Thank
There
you,
are
Chris.
no words that you're going to say here that
Yeah.
are going to fucking get past the fact that I've said you're not speaking.
Okay.
We can do the back and forth,
Yeah.
so it can get boring.
It could get very boring, so I'll end it here.
It will get boring.
I
that's
can't
right.
wait for Saturday
But guess
night. It's
what?
going to be a great
I
night.
don't mind
Thank
if it
you to
gets
the Ring
boring.
Magazine. Thank you to Turkey Al Sheikh. That shut you up.
Congratulations.
Thanks very
I've got
much.
2 words in. Everybody, lift your flag.
And there you go. The fans have kind of really enjoyed listening to Chris Eubank Jr. I know I, being a fan, have as well. Let me go to you, Lil Petty. Your thoughts on seeing Chris Eubank Jr. first dominate the discussion when Eddie Hearn was at the head table a few weeks back, and then doing it again to the point where Eddie Hearn just left. I actually missed playing that part, and Frank Smith went up there to replace him. Go for it.
Yeah, he did actually want him back in there because I think they were talking about that $1 million bet, and then Eddie Hearn said, "No, you don't want me. You don't want me here." So blah blah blah. But I do think that this kind of I think he's just posturing here. He's just using his A side status per se. And Mayweather used to do this too when he fought Pacquiao. You know, not giving the top rank the tickets right up the end, and because Bob Arum was going to sue who was it?
Interference for many
PBC back then, and then eventually they gave him their share of the tickets. Blah blah blah. So, but the thing is, the reason why I don't take this too much seriously is because these two, they're not. Even though I like the fight and I hope the fight lives up to the hype. Like what Eubank Senior said, it's not really like. For British fans, it's an interesting fight, and I do find it interesting as well because I just want to see a good fight. But in the scheme of things, these two, they haven't really achieved that much, especially Ben. I can see Eubank Senior's point that he thinks that this is not a legacy fight between these two sons. He thinks that it's more of a clown show, kind of like an exhibition fight. I kind of see his point. I do think that he's trying to. I think it's more anger. He's thinking of emotions. But I can see what he's trying to say. And that's the reason why that in that press conference, I see more of it as a comedy. I do think he needs to respect Eddie Hearn a little bit. I mean, I think he's angry because he tried to make the fight after Ben failed the drug test. I think he's more upset about that.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons he parted ways with his former promoter as well.
However, that's his fighter. Of course he's gonna go by his fighter. He's not gonna diss him. And it's not like Eubank was with Matchroom either. It's not like you know, like what's his name? Like who's that promoter in the 70s and 60s? What's his name? He's black. What's his name again? Oh,
Don King.
Yeah, Don King's not like Don King where he, you know, whoever the winner is, he will leave with him. Like he went in the fight with Frazier, and then afterwards he forgot about Frazier and left with what's his name?
George Foreman.
Joe Foreman. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought I was thinking. I thought of it more as a.
So
as a
you,
comedy
Lil
show.
Penny,
I didn't
you're
really take it seriously.
to bring up comedy shows. Very odd to me that the Ring Magazine, which is promoting this event, did this, but this wasn't intentionally funny. But if you read the comment sections of this video, it actually turned out to be very funny. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see this, but the Ring Magazine decided to hook Conor Benn up to a lie detector test. Did you guys see this? Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. Here we go.
Your name is Conor Benn?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Conor Benn.
Sorry, I have to answer yes or no.
Oh, yeah.
On April 26th, you're fighting Chris Eubank Jr.
Yes.
Your father's legacy being a burden?
No. It's true.
Your father's legacy being a blessing?
Yes. Yep, it's true.
You're in your peak?
Yes. True.
Eddie Hearn would KO Ben Shalom?
Yes. Yeah.
You secretly enjoy watching romantic comedies when nobody's around?
No.
All right, so they went through all of this, but I don't. It shouldn't be obvious, but maybe it should be obvious. I don't know. They didn't ask him whether or not he knowingly took performance-enhancing drugs. So when you go to the comment section of this video, I mean, you want to talk comedy, this is comedy. So we all came for one question that didn't occur. His team definitely told them, don't ask about PEDs. Did you knowingly take performance-enhancing drugs? Meaning they never asked him that question. I've never seen Conor so nervous before. They had such a good opportunity to expose him here, and they didn't take it. I mean, it just goes on and on. The funniest one I saw was this one. It says, "I've been cleared, and I took a lie detector test." Joe, what do you think was the purpose of that? I mean, it's not making the guy look very good, is it?
Well, the $1 million question, as you just said, that everyone was waiting to be asked, wasn't asked, right? So, what good was that?
Yeah.
It's funny though.
Yeah, I don't think it was
Yeah,
intended. I don't think it
funny. Little
I don't
thing.
think it was intended to be funny though. You know,
Yeah.
I really
I'm
don't.
not sure if it was or it wasn't. I could see the entertainment angle, like it's kind of like maybe a
Oh, like with the question about the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Base is bringing up a fact here, and I do want to play this because anything Chris Eubank Jr. does, I don't know. There's a few fighters in the sport, and I'm going to get to his lie detector test right now, Base. There's a few fighters in the sport that when I see them being interviewed, I usually click. And Chris Eubank Jr. is definitely one of them. Chris Eubank Jr. is one of my favorite fighters to kind of see content of. And here's some of it right here. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. It's Chris Eubank Jr. on the lie detector test. Let's have a look. Joe, I already see you're excited to watch this.
Have you ever worn the monocle your father made famous, even just for fun, when no one was watching?
Absolutely. I've definitely worn that monocle multiple times as a kid. I used to see it lying around on the couch or on the bedside table. I'd pick it up, I'd pop it in, look in the mirror. Yeah, it was,
Yes or no
it was fun.
answer.
Yep, that's true.
Do you enjoy the celebrity lifestyle?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that's true. There's a part of you that doesn't think so.
Okay, it's interesting.
If you could go back in time, you would still choose boxing as your profession?
Absolutely. Yeah, boxing has, it's taught me so much. Discipline, respect, control. It's my passion and it always will be.
Yep, that's true.
You feel your father's iconic rivalry with Nigel Benn has placed unfair expectations on your own career?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that those expectations are unfair. You know, I have the same name as my father. I'm in the same sport. There was always going to be a pressure. There was always going to be an expectation for me to do great things. I accepted that challenge, and you know, that's been a part of my life, kind of trying to.
It's a really long answer.
Create my own path.
Yes, it's a yes or no answer.
Yeah, it's true too.
You are confident your skills are simply superior to Conor Benn's.
This is the good one.
In every way, shape, and form, I believe I'm a superior fighter to Conor Benn.
That's a definite true.
There we go.
If you lose to Conor Benn, would you seriously consider retirement?
Yes. If I lose to Conor Benn, retirement is most definitely something that I will be considering.
Yep, that's true.
All right, we'll leave it at that because we do have to get to probably the most important segment of this first hour of Sucker Punch. But before I do that, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, you got to make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're new or old, make sure you also hit the notification bell to know every time we go live here. Because you will want to know when Joe does this important segment, Beating the Odds with Beeb. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. Here we go. All right, Joe, walk us through how you see this fight going, and if you need me to bring up the odds for the fight, I can do that. But yeah, let's go. First, give your prediction of the fight, and then let's talk about ways that you can gamble that hard-earned money as a working man or woman out there.
I was curious to see if the odds would move a little bit after the weigh-in, and they did. Chris Eubank yesterday was a minus 185. Now he's a minus 175. Conor Benn was a plus 135, I believe. Now he's a plus 140. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird how Conor Benn's went up and so did Chris's. So it's just kind of a weird movement of the line. The over-under here is 8.5 at a minus 115. So they're telling you they don't think this fight's going the distance. Chris Eubank Jr. by knockout, though, is a plus 145. Chris Eubank Jr. by decision is a plus 290. Whereas Conor Benn by KO is a plus 210. Conor Benn by decision is a plus 800. So it's weird how Chris is a plus 290 by decision and Conor's a plus 800. So they could see Chris winning. It looks like they're leaning towards Chris by knockout because he's only a plus 145. That's close to even money. But they're also saying that 290, where a decision is possible. These odds are telling me right here, though, Conor Benn would have the only way they believe Conor Benn can win, the odds makers, that when I say they, is by knockout. They see him winning by decision as a long shot, right? So the minus 175 is not bad here. My prediction is going to be Chris Eubank Jr. by 6th round stoppage here, but you're only getting a plus 145. It's not bad, but I'm like 60-40 on it now because of the weight. If he made the weight a little bit more comfortably, then I probably would have recommended the knockout stoppage, but I could see him winning by decision or knockout. But I'm only like 60-40 on the knockout, where I'm kind of 75-25 on the decision, right? So I think Chris Eubank Jr. will win this fight. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be a knockout, though. And I had a discussion, an exchange with Ariel Helwani on Twitter yesterday, and he was like, "Yeah, he looked like he thought that Chris Eubank Jr. looked emaciated." And I said, "No, I don't think he looked emaciated." Now, obviously, I think that it was a tough weight cut. There's no doubt about it. It was a tough weight cut. He looked a bit dry, which a lot of times fighters do look dry at the weigh-in. I didn't see that sunken in eyes. I didn't see that glassy look in his eyes, like that, that kind of like looked like he was in a daze. Like when Spence weighed in, his eyes were like buggy and
I was
sunken.
there in Vegas. I called you afterwards. He looked horrible.
He looked horrible, even Boots doesn't look great on the scales, in my opinion. So in this case, I don't think that the weight is as big a deal as people are saying. I don't think he looked like death warmed over. Like, I think Spence looked really bad. The whole week he looked bad of the fight. I started doing all the press work and stuff the week leading up to the fight against Crawford. I don't see that with Eubank. And he made the 170. He was like 169.5. I think he'll put on probably another maybe 5 or 6 pounds, maybe 7 tops. I could see him weighing about 160, in between 175 and 177 the night of the fight. Conor will probably stay the same. I don't think he'll put on any additional weight. So I think I see Chris being able to use his jab, keeping Conor Benn on the outside. I think Conor Benn will when he does get inside, I could see Chris like kind of taking a half step back and shooting that left uppercut. I think the uppercuts are going to be huge in this fight for Chris Eubank Jr. I could see him measuring him with the jab and kind of posting him a little bit with the jab and knocking him off rhythm. And then I could see Conor Benn maybe getting somewhat close. And then when he gets towards that mid range, I think Chris will start ripping those 45s with the lefts and rights. And I could see Conor really walking into one of those, and one of those could just change the fight, turn the fight, and have Conor Benn on Queer Street. Whereas I think Chris will be bigger, stronger. I don't see Conor getting like really deep. When Conor gets close, he smothers his work a lot. He's not really a fluid guy on the inside. He's more of that one punch, wing, one shot at a time. And I know Chris isn't the biggest volume guy, but he'll put them together in spurts. Conor's is, to me, always loading up, right? I think Conor's is very raw, and I still think he's raw. And I don't see an improvement. And he's got explosiveness. He's quick. He's athletic. He's just strong for his size. But he looked like he was fading in both of those 154 fights. He looked tired towards the second half, and I could see him fading a little bit in this fight. If it goes past 6.
I see that as well, Joe. Look, Conor's got to get inside to win this fight.
Yeah.
He's got to close the distance, get inside on range, and essentially win this fight on the inside. The problem that I have with that, if I'm looking at this analytically, is that I don't think he's a really effective inside fighter.
No.
I've never seen that from him because we've never even seen him face off against an elite fighter in his prime, let alone someone who's fighting at 160 pounds. So
yeah.
The other thing too is Chris Eubank Jr.'s got a pretty good jab. He throws a pretty good uppercut. And I think he's going to make Conor Benn pay for trying to get inside. Yeah. I don't think Conor Benn's very effective at closing the gap and getting inside.
I don't think
he's very skilled at fighting him on the inside. And here's the other factor. I don't think he does very well boxing backwards and going backwards.
Yeah.
And there are going to be multiple moments in this fight, how long it lasts. We got to obviously do that as proportionally here, where he's going to have to be able to fight going backwards, because there are going to be moments where the bigger man is going to push him back with a jab and with power punches, and I haven't seen him effectively fight on the back foot. I see you wanted to jump in there too, Joe. So you can jump in there, and then we'll hear from Lil Penny. Go for it if you agree or disagree with anything I was saying.
No, you were on point. And Conor Benn's inside is like Chris Eubank Jr.'s mid range. See what I'm saying? Like he's gonna try to get close, but I don't think he'll get past mid range here. And then if he does get past mid range, he's gonna get grappled, and he's gonna get leaned on and probably walked back. I think Chris Eubank Jr. is gonna be a little physical in this fight, in my opinion.
Right, and excuse me for not really believing all of the tall tales of Nigel Benn. Essentially saying that he was dominating William Skull and dominating.
I don't believe that.
Nigel Bentley in sparring. I don't believe it either. Lil Penny, I saw you wanting to jump in. Go for it.
Yeah, there is also Biebs. I don't know if you saw in that second time that Chris Eubank tried to make weight of 160 pounds. He looked really weak there. It made me a little concerned because he was trying to take off his clothes and he had to grab someone's shoulder. Usually, when you're an athlete, man, you can even bend all of your hands from you can actually touch the ground. If you're athletes like those guys, they are very flexible. But I don't know. I just felt like I was thinking to myself, Chris, just don't make the 170 rehydration clause. Maybe weigh in 173 pounds. Just pay the fine. You're getting paid 10 million pounds anyway. I think the fine is $1 million if he goes over. I don't know if that's per pound but I heard that it was around 1 million. You've got enough money anyway. Just win the fight. Kind of like what Ryan Garcia did to Devin Haney. If Ryan Garcia weighed in 140, I think Haney would have won that fight. But now that he made 169.5 pounds, I do see now this is just for the bettors who want to take a risk. I do see a scenario where, like I was saying before, it could be like a Pacquiao De La Hoya situation where Ben goes from 169, he goes to loses 167 pounds because he lost so much weight, and Ben weighs in another 2 pounds to the point where on fight night Ben actually weighs more than Eubank Jr. That could play out. Also, Benny. Eubank Jr. He's quite old now. He's at nearly the same age as De La Hoya was, right? And De La Hoya was quite more active than Eubank was at that age because before he fought De La Hoya, he fought Stevie Forbes, and then I think he fought Mayweather the year before, and then he fought the year before that. I think he fought I think it was not Fernando Vargas. He fought someone else. I can't remember, but. That could play out, but I do think that Eubank will win this fight because he's just more physically gifted than Conor Benn. He's a better boxer than Conor Benn. He's fought better opponents than Conor Benn. He has more experience than Conor Benn.
I'll give you another one on top of that. My one of my best friends, Ludo, who Joe knows as well now, and does a YouTube show with. His friend Cedric Peynaud, for all of the people who are harping on the fact that Liam Smith hurt Chris Eubank Jr., go back and watch the Cedric Peynaud fight. That's Ludo's good friend from France. They both came up together as fighters, and he should have won against Conor Benn that fight. In fact, he dropped Conor Benn in that fight. You getting dropped by Cedric Peynaud at 147, which is supposedly your natural and optimal weight. I don't have a lot of confidence in terms of you against a full-fledged middleweight. Let's bring on Mr. Troy Graham. Troy, long time no see, fam. How you doing?
Doing great.
How you been, man? Everything good? Everything good with you, man?
Everything's great.
Good
Everything's
for you.
great,
Good, man.
brother.
Good to hear. Good to hear, man.
I'm, this is a fight I rarely see in boxing. It's a second generation fight. Uh, keeping the name alive for their fathers, you know. But how I see it is this: I think Connor's fighting at his natural weight. He's 147. He has to come down to 147. So I think he'll be fighting at his natural weight. And Chris is he didn't make weight, right?
He
Well,
missed
we're
it
gonna get
by.
in. We're gonna get into
No.
that hour number 2, Troy. But he was half an
Okay.
ounce. He was half an ounce over and got fined. I don't know if it was 500,000 pounds sterling or $500,000.
No, it's $500,000.
Okay, there you go. So I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to
Okay,
update.
so-
I'm gonna have to update the thumbnail on the other video. Go for it.
Okay, but there's a reason for that because his natural weight is like 190 something. So his father was right. He's in his 30s now. Him fighting, and there's a reason why he does not fight at 60. He hasn't fought there for years, and there's a reason why you probably won't see him fight at 168 anymore because he just can't make those weights anymore. So he was never going to make the weight. He's going to be heavy on fight night. If he doesn't take Conor out early, then Conor will win in the later rounds. That's how I see the fight going.
There you go. There you go. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, Lil Penny? Because I know I slightly cut you off there to make a point, and then I let Troy on.
No, I just think that. By the way, the card's not too bad actually.
A lot
The
of people
entire
are saying
card.
the card's good. Yeah, everyone's happy with the card. It's a good event.
Yeah, and I've just seen the picture of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Man, it looks really good. It looks better
Oh, it's
than
a
Wembley.
very nice stadium.
Yeah, it looks better than Wembley Stadium. I think it's because the Tottenham Hotspur is a bit smaller.
It's a newer stadium. Wembley's even old, even if you include the renovation job they did. Hotspur Stadium. Remember, it was pretty much christened with the Anthony Joshua Usyk fight, right? The first one. So it's a pretty new stadium.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. This fight kind of like it reminds. It's not like these two aren't world champions, right? But I hope it lives up to the hype because this fight is all about hype. Like it's not like a Pacquiao Marquez or anything. Like like they're like both world champions. They're both especially on the Ben side. Ben hasn't really achieved anything. But for Ben, he's in a win-win situation. If he loses, who cares? Like, because he went up 2 weight classes. This is more for Eubanks Jr. If he loses, right, this will ruin his legacy because he turned down Canelo a couple of times. He turned down Triple G a couple of times as well, and people see that as like he didn't want to take that fight because these guys are friggin' murderers, right? Like like he didn't want to go through the murderers row. He's taking the easier route, and he lost instead of losing to Triple G and Canelo. He lost to Eubanks and BJ Saunders and what's his name? Frotch's arch nemesis. What's his name? George Groves. It would have been better if he lost to Canelo and Triple G. His legacy would have been acceptable, but he went the other way. Like I think also that's what Senior also is a bit upset because he went the other route, like he went to the softer route, and he lost 3 times. It would have been better if he went down the hard route and lost to Canelo and Triple G. You know what I mean, guys?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like the choice was between Triple G and Conor Benn. Conor Benn was the Triple G fight was a while ago. Remember, that's when Kell Brook stepped up. How many years ago was that? I mean, Kell Brook was still welterweight champion at that point. And then after losing that, ended up going back down to welterweight and losing the title to Errol Spence Jr., who became welterweight champion for the first time. I mean, that seems like a lifetime ago.
But Maestro, Eubanks was the middleweight champion at that time. I think it was the IBO middleweight champion.
Right.
All I'm saying is it's not like he could have fought Triple G instead of fighting this fight. The fights that were on the table, if memory serves me well, were potentially a Canelo fight, potentially a Erislandy Lara fight, potentially a Janibek fight, right? Potentially a Hamza Shiraz fight. But with the exception of the Canelo fight, and even that's arguable, this is the biggest, most lucrative fight that he can make. In fact, I think he's making more for this fight than he was allegedly offered to fight Canelo. So it's hard to say that he shouldn't have taken this fight. Troy, I see you wanted to chime in there.
Yeah, this fight, I don't think he could the situation that happened in the Triple G fight. I think that was all Eddie, which is probably why he's still mad at him. But I don't think that he pulled out or anything like that. I think that Eddie, I don't know what happened, but it wasn't Junior's fault. I
Yeah.
didn't, and the other fights were just hearsay. They weren't anything solid.
Yeah.
They weren't anything solid at all. Now this fight is the biggest fight that he could make in the UK. It works on so many fronts for them because of their fathers, and they're gonna get paid a whole lot of money, and the fight's gonna get sold out. And there's a chance for a second fight and a third fight if need be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They loves their fighters.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Just like Derek Chisora. I mean, because look at it. Derek Chisora has 12 or 13 losses. He couldn't have made any money over here.
No, the closest comparison we have
he's
that
always
in the United States, I'd say, is probably Gabe Rosado, right, Troy? And he's made nowhere near, not to pocket watch, as a friend of mine would say, but nowhere near as much money as Derek Chisora has, right?
And he's not as well known. Well, maybe after the Creed movies, but he's not as well known as Derek Chisora either.
Yeah,
So you factor all that, yeah. So yeah, but I just don't see his legacy being destroyed if he loses. Because number one, what was his legacy in the first place besides his father's name? Tell the truth. What is he himself?
I hear you.
But
so, Joe, before we get to hour number 2, any last things you'd like to say before we get to hour number 2, where we're going to get in more to the issue of the weight cut, the weight rehydration, the fines related to the weight, and the impact of all of this on the event and on the fight itself.
It's just amazing how things just change, because when the fight was first announced, I think it was like almost 2 years ago, it was a mismatch. And now it's a 50-50 fight. And a lot of people are picking Ben to win this. So I just think it's very intriguing. And I think it's fascinating at the same time.
Yeah. Lil Penny, what are your final thoughts here for the first hour of the show?
Yeah, I'm still going for Eubank. I just think it's just more. He's physically just better than Conor Benn. I think Ben. Beeb is right. Ben, like at the start of his fights, he tries to throw haymakers all the time, to the point where like he runs out of energy. Like
he just doesn't fight effectively as a pressure fighter. He just doesn't.
He can't control his adrenaline, in my opinion.
But Beebs, I do think he's aware of that, though. I don't know. He might not do that this time.
He may.
You know what I mean, Beebs?
Could be right. I mean, this is a bigger fight. He may have been trained to try and settle down. But here's the thing, Little Penny. Do you go back to your natural tendencies?
Yeah, true.
You know
when you get hit.
When you get hit, and also when you get frustrated because what you're trying to do, the tactics you're trying to apply are not really working against the guy who's longer and taller than you are.
Like what? When Pacquiao got knocked down against Marquez in that fourth fight, he completely went because he was outboxing Marquez for the first 3 rounds, right? He gets knocked down.
He was winning.
Yeah, he goes knocked down in the fourth, and all of a sudden he goes crazy. He goes into that Pacquiao.
He was mad. He was mad that Marquez knocked him down. He was mad.
He was.
Yeah, he went started doing this again. Like
he was angry.
Dude, relax.
It's funny to me, Lil Penny, that like 99, maybe that's a little too much. Maybe 95, I should say, % of your analogies are to Pacquiao fights.
He loves Pacquiao.
And Mayweather too. Mayweather.
That's your Pacquiao was like clearly your favorite reference point. Anyhow, that's hour number one. Come on over to hour number two. Troy, you're invited as well, as is everybody else. I'm going to drop the link right here to hour number two, so that everybody can tune in should they like to do that. We'd love to have you come on over and watch hour number two, where we're going to get into the weight. A lot of this fight is about weight. The drama is about weight. We're going to talk about weight. Hour number two. Link is in the box. It's also in the chat box. It's in description and chat. Hit the like button if you haven't done so yet on your way out. And I'm sure Joe and Eric are going to talk about this fight on the flagship show on this channel tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. out there in the UK. Ringside Reporter Live with Joe Habeeb and Eric Lorda. So check that out tomorrow night. Until then, we'll see you right now. Give us about a minute or so. Hour number two. Link is there